Welcome along, explorer. Ahoy hoy, my name's Dan. It's time to explore the entire universe and see what's waiting for us. Let's get on with a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. So this week, we learn why plastic is everywhere and it can be very bad for our planet. We'll uncover the hidden impact and what can be done about it.
Whilst everything is technically nearly recyclable, a lot of stuff doesn't get recycled, not because it can't be, but because the economics don't work. Now, we call this the economics of waste, packaging that's used once and then thrown away.
Also, you can travel back in time to find a huge rodent, and we'll learn all about an ant which uses its head as a door.
And this particular one, if they sense invading ants come along, they'll have certain individuals who will basically, their head is just a flat door that they stick in the holes into their hives to not let any other invading ants through.
It's all on the way in a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. Let's start with your science in the news, and it's huge news to kick us off. A human skull has been discovered in China, and it's thought to be 1 million years old. While this is a surprise, it suggests our species, Homo sapiens, began to emerge 500,000 years before we have thought. It shows that we coexisted with our sister species, Neanderthals, for much longer than we originally believed. Experts say this totally changes our understanding of human evolution, and it would rewrite an important early chapter in our history. But other experts in the field say the idea that this could be so old is interesting, but it's not certain just yet. How mind-boggling is that? We may have discovered that humans were around like 500,000 years before we thought they were, just because we found a skull. How incredible that we are living at a time where we can discover this. Also this week, the falcon has been named New Zealand's Bird of the Year. There were 73 birds in the running, or the flying, and the voters picked the New Zealand falcon. It can reach 200 kilometres an hour in a dive. It's brilliant at hunting. It's got brown and blonde plumes with wide eyes, a sharp, bright orange beak. But there's just 8,000 of them in the wild. So while it's good to win it, what this competition really does in New Zealand is highlight that we need to be concerned about conservation. And our final story this week, artificial intelligence is helping humans understand what animals are saying. And now scientists are wondering whether it could also help us humans talk back. Sounds brilliant. Should we find out more? Mélissa Berthet is from the University of Zurich, has been working on this. Mélissa, thank you so much for joining us. So exactly how is AI helping us humans understanding animals? I know that you've been doing work with bonobos and other gorilla-type creatures.
Yes, exactly. So AI now is very powerful because it helps us to we have a lot of data, we record animals on the field, we take videos, but it's very long to just work with this data and process everything. And so AI is very powerful to help us process that and see whether we can find some interesting things that the animals can say. And so, I've worked with bonobos, so it's like a chimp, but I also worked with a small monkey in South America that is called a titi monkey.
So can you help us understand how AI is helping you understand these creatures? So is it recording them and speaking it back to you? What's going on?
No, basically AI at the moment is mostly about how to analyze the data. So we still need humans to go and run after the animals because it's a lot of work and no machine can do that alone at the moment. So, we mostly work with wild animals. So we work in the jungle, we work in the mountains. So you cannot just send a machine to do that. You need a human to go with the animals, see what they're doing and recording with the microphone. But then AI is very useful, like on our laptop, to just tell us, oh, this vocalization here, it often happens when this individual is fighting or this individual is feeding. This is where AI comes in.
And what type of things have we understood that these creatures are saying?
So, for example, in my research, we have been able to show that bonobos, they have some kind of words. And just like humans, they can combine those words into sentences. And so that is very interesting because we thought so far that only humans could do sentences. And actually, no, bonobos can do that too.
And also, it's not just helping us understand what creatures are saying. There might be a time when it will help us talk back to these creatures. How could that work, Mélissa?
Yeah, so that's the idea for some scientists, is to be able to have machines to help us communicate with the animals. So far, it's more of an idea than a real, it's not really happening yet. But I think the idea would be that we could use it just like Google Translate or, ChatGPT, that you could say what you want to say to the animal and then it could translate that into some animal sound maybe. And then if the animal answers, you could translate this back to human words. But I really doubt that this would work really well because the idea is good, but animals, they don't really communicate the way we do. They don't really care about talking about a story that did not exist, or, they mostly ask you to do something for them. So they will not very be interested in, knowing which color is your shoe or what did you do at school today. So this is, I think, where the limitation will come. It's very unlikely we're going to have a machine that really allows you to really talk deeply with an animal. Probably we can just communicate some very rough idea with them because they are not really used to have like a very complex system to communicate.
Now, when us humans speak, Mélissa, we make different sounds of a word to make a whole word. Then we put those together to make sentences and stories. I know that you have been recording quite a lot of calls when your team, and that you've found the animals have, is it 4 different ways of talking and making sounds? Can you just explain those different ways?
Yes, exactly. Basically, what we have found is that they have, we would say, a dictionary of 7 words. And those 7 words, they can make 4 sentences with them. And those sentences are mostly used to coordinate with the group because, bonobos live in big groups, big families. And most of what they say is really about making sure that everybody does the same activity at the same time so that nobody is lost in the forest and nobody is left behind. So most of the sentence they will do is something like, let's build a nest together, or I would like that we stop fighting, for example.
Have you noticed, I don't know how you would notice this, but do they have greeting words or ways of being polite where we might say please and thank you? Would they say a certain thing to win someone over, perhaps?
I'm not sure we have seen that in bonobos, but in chimpanzee, for example, they have what they call the pen grunt, which is a way to greet an individual that is higher ranking. So like someone that is above you in the hierarchy, kind of a boss. There is a way of greeting them. It's a kind of politeness just to say, I know you're above me and I respect you. So yes, it happens in some animals, not all of them.
And in the chimpanzees, is that a sound? Is that a bow? What is it?
Yeah, it's something like this. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's been such a treat to chat to you and learn more, Mélissa Berthet. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Let's get to some of your questions then. If you have anything sciencey that you want answered on this show, anything at all, make sure you leave it as a voice note for me on the free Fun Kids app. You can do it at funkidslive.com too. That way I hear it, I know exactly what you're after. I'll do the digging, I'll find a genius, and we'll play it out. You could star in the podcast. First up this week from Avi, who wants to know, why is the time in other countries different? Well, Avi, so because the Earth spins around, it's always spinning around and round and round, different places on Earth go from not seeing the sun to seeing the sun. So the sun is always shining in different parts of the planet at different times. So we can't all have day and we can't all have night at the same time. So when a place in the far east of the globe, Asia, has the sun, a place in the far west, California and America and Hawaii, that'll be in complete darkness. So for different countries to have a full day, they need to have different times. When it's morning in one place, it'll be evening in another place. And you work this out. For every 15 degrees you move east around the globe, you're moving an hour forwards in time. That's how it works, Avi, which is brilliant on New Year's Eve. I don't know if you've seen this. Maybe where you're celebrating it is much earlier than when someone else is seeing in a brand new year. It's always amazing when I see that. Avi, thank you for the question. Let's get on another one. This is from Marianne. What do you have, Marianne?
My question is, what makes plastic bad for the environment?
Well, Marianne, thank you very much for your question. What makes plastic bad for the environment? We're always hearing that it's maybe slipping into our sea and it's doing some damage there. What else does it do? Shall we find out why? Stephen Clark is from TerraCycle, who are trying to change things. Stephen, thank you for joining us. So, what makes plastic bad for the environment?
Well, plastic has its virtues and usefulness. It's more the way we, in a modern society, have used to have chosen to use it. So manufacturers reduce the weight of packages to save costs, and that makes them disposable. So now many products are in packaging that's used once and then thrown away. It's been getting worse and worse for the last 50 years, and as a result, recyclability has decreased. So a good way to look at it is if you think of a juice product in a glass bottle compared with a juice pouch. Now, the glass bottle is recycled locally by your home collection, by your council. The juice pouch is made up from multiple complex layers of aluminium polymers and different things like aluminium. It makes it difficult to separate, and therefore it's hard to recycle. Now, as a result, whilst everything is technically nearly recyclable, a lot of stuff doesn't get recycled, not because it can't be, but because the economics don't work. Now, we call this the economics of waste. So councils will recycle from your house the very easy things to recycle that make money. So at home, you can probably recycle paper, cardboard, glass bottles, plastic bottles, and let's say things like certain rigid plastics, like chicken or vegetables might come in. Anything that's kind of flexible, they won't want to take. So let's think things like snack wrappers, let's think things like cheese packaging, and anything that's a mix of materials they definitely don't want. So they don't want things like pens, toothbrushes, beauty products, contact lenses, medicine blister packs. These are all things that you can recycle with TerraCycle, but the reason they don't want them isn't because they can't be recycled, but because they're hard and it costs more money to recycle it than what they can make by selling the recycled material.
So a lot of it is that it's just really tricky to recycle and it's really expensive for whoever kind of runs our local area to do it. But there are some times, Stephen, that I think this probably should be recycled. This package that I've got, I want to give it a go. Hopefully, it would work. Can that help at all? Me just shoving something in the recycling that shouldn't go there?
Yeah, I mean, the term for that is called wish cycling. So basically, it's because you wish you could recycle something so much, you put the wrong things into the recycling box. So if you do that, and let's use an example. So I've got a pen on my desk here. If I really wanted to recycle this pen, my council won't recycle it. If I put it into my recycling box in the hope that it will be recycled, it most certainly won't be. It would be siphoned out and it would probably go to be burnt, or it would end up in landfill, both of which are bad for the environment. If you also put the wrong things in, it can also cause what's known as contamination. And that means that all the good things you've put in, let's say plastic bottles, let's say rigid food trays that should normally be recycled, might actually get taken out because of the wrong thing that you've put in there. Now, there's a really good way to find out what you can recycle from home. There's a website called recyclenow.com, and it has this really cool postcode search facility. So you put your postcode in of where your house is, and it will tell you what you can recycle from home. And it will also tell you other things that you can go and recycle. So it will tell you, for example, is there somewhere locally in like a shop you can recycle flexible plastics? So let's say crisp packets or, I don't know, biscuit wrappers or cheese packaging. Or is there somewhere that will accept batteries? So you can make sure that you're recycling the right things. And then TerraCycle, which is the company that I work for, and our website is TerraCycle, so TerraCycle.com. We have about 30 in the UK free recycling programs where you can recycle a whole host of things, such as cheese packaging, biscuit and snack wrappers, bread packaging, etc. Now, you can either sign up as an individual sometimes, or your school might be able to sign up, or your school maybe already recycles with us. Or we have these things called drop-off locations, where you put your postcode into our map and it will tell you what you can recycle locally at our drop-off location points.
Stephen, The thing is with modern recycling is even with fantastic initiatives where we can we can raise money for local charities and we can send it off, it's still like really complicated. If we were to look at the world of recycling in, I don't know, 20, 50 years, is there a chance it might all get a bit simpler for us?
Yeah, I mean, there is something coming in through the UK government next year where all councils have to recycle the same things. At the moment, councils recycle different things. So, for example, where I live and somewhere 5 miles down the road might recycle very different things. But it's all going to become more standardised next year. And one of the things we're looking at, the other company that I work for is called Loop, which is reuse. So we really think the way forward is to have products in reusable packaging where consumers pay a deposit. Then once you finish with it, it comes back, and that same package is then used for the next consumer. So it's washed at the end, it's refilled, and then it goes back on shelf in the supermarket. And by doing that, you're not using materials just once, you're reusing it again and again and again, which is much more environmentally friendly for the planet, basically.
Well, Marianne, that's answered your question. Something for you to think about there, and ways that you can help too. Stephen Clark, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's been a brilliant year, stuffed full of Fun Kids Science Weekly live shows. I hope you've come to see one. We've played all over the UK, and there's still some shows left. Your chance to see this podcast, the best podcast in the history of the universe, live on stage. I'd love you to be there. Next show is in Leeds at the Carriageworks Theatre. That's on the 18th of October. So it'll be me, it'll be you, and everything you love from the podcast. We'll learn experiments. You can make a lightsaber. We'll have Dangerous Dan, actual Dangerous Dan live on stage. Proper slimy, spiky, stinging creatures on stage. And a meteorite you can get hands on with some space rock. So that's the next show in the Carriageworks Theatre in Leeds. We've got a few more after that too. Find out where I'm playing near you and you can get some tickets. Grab a grown-up and head to funkidslive.com/tour. For this week's Dangerous Dan, where we search for the weirdest, the most unique and strange and deadly things in the universe, we are headed to the beach, to the Caribbean, to find the blunt-toothed giant hootia. To find it, we'll need to travel back in time. It's an extinct, massive, ratty creature. It's a rodent, and it was thought to weigh almost 200 kilograms. Experts think it was a rat the size of a black bear. It would have roamed around the land that is now Anguilla and St. Martin. The first fossils of this beast were found in around 1868, so 150 years ago, and recent remains have been traced back to almost 500,000 years ago. Now, we don't know too much about it, only that the blunt-toothed giant hootia was massive. And it would have been dangerous, regardless, even if perhaps it only ate plants. Imagine a massive rat with enormous teeth, all that gnawing power, a tail that grew to as long as your parents are tall. It would swing around, it would sweep things out of the way. Now, because it evolved in isolation on an island, it would have grown bigger than other creatures and other rodents, as there was nothing else to try and take its food. So this is one for you to picture, for you to imagine. We don't know too much about the blunt-toothed giant hootia. We've only found a few bones, but what we do know is that it would have been huge, like a ginormous rat, and that would have been terrifying. For this week's Battle of the Sciences, we're getting down, we're getting muddy perhaps, we're getting creepy and very crawly. We're talking entomology with Matthew Sparks from Swansea University. Matthew, you have 1 minute to tell us why entomology is the greatest of all the sciences. That minute starts in 3, 2, 1, go!
First off, unlike a lot of sciences, you may not be able to see what you study, but with insects, that's definitely not the case. So for every one person on Earth, there's approximately 1.4 billion insects. And of these, there's so many different species. So currently for mammals, we know there's around 6,600, but for insects, the amount of species that we know of is over 1 million. With their estimates, there could be even 5 million species out there, which wait to be discovered. And of these, you've got some very interesting ones. So personal choices. You have an ant called Cephalotes variant as a weird one where its head is essentially a door that it uses for their hive. And you've also got some cute ones. So you've got acorn weevils or Bombilicus japonicus, which I really recommend Googling as these are adorable. And you've also got cool ones, which is flies, which move so quick by the time a flash photograph is taken, they've moved away from where the photograph is taken to the light flashing. And of course, these are also really important for things as pollination or waste disposal, and they're important across all life on our planet, including our own lives.
Matthew, there's your minute. Wow. I've got big questions about entomology, but just while I remember, did you say an ant had its head was a door to its hive?
Yeah, so essentially, ants are kind of these weird species where they all kind of work together as a hive, and you get some certain individuals of the species which have these sort of morphological variations where they look different to other ants, but they're the same species. And this particular one, if they sense invading ants come along, they'll have certain individuals who will basically, their head is just a flat door that they stick in the holes into their hives to not let any other invading ants through.
Whoa, that is awesome. I know that you are researching a PhD. What does an entomologist tend to do every day if they're not teaching or lecturing? How are they learning and discovering more of these strange creatures and what they do?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, entomology is such a broad subject. There's almost something for anyone. So they could be doing all sorts. So, for example, they could be going into field surveys, traveling the world, exploring these environments and seeing what insects do exist here with a net or any kind of sampling setup. There's so many different ways you can sample. Or they could be working in museums where a lot of museums have these vast insect collections which need curating, where you identify the species and you locate where it came from and you keep this information stored and you monitor it. A lot like Animal Crossing, I think, is a good example on what you see there. And then there is also a conservation angle. So we're understanding, well, what do they need in these environments to survive? And we're trying to help inform our decisions on how we help keep the insect populations alive and around.
Now, the nickname of a lot of insects, creepy crawly, well, they are quite creepy. Many people, completely disgusted by insects. Why have you decided to specialise in these little things?
Well, I think they're very interesting and they're so different to what we experience as mammals, I guess, where you have these strange life systems, where you have these like insects where their entire life is to be a door, or you can get a stalk-eyed fly, for example, where their eyes are like these at the end, these massive stalks on the sides of their head. And I'd even say not all of them are too creepy or crawly. As I said earlier, I'd suggest looking at an acorn weevil or a bee fly, Bombilicus japonicus, for example, where you've got these almost sometimes fluffy and very cute looking animals. And of course, they are just living beings like us, and they're just trying to go about their lives in their own way.
We always finish these, Matthew, in exactly the same way. Let me throw you forward years and years and years and years towards the end of your career as an entomologist. What's the one discovery that you want to make? What would you love to get answered?
What I probably want to be discovered is probably still unknown. So what I find the most interesting is that to this day, we're constantly making new discoveries about their behavior and what we do know about them. So, for example, we've recently learned a bumblebee you can teach a bumblebee a behavior to get a treat that it otherwise wouldn't know about. But not only can you teach this behavior that it wouldn't be able to come to on its own, another bumblebee can observe that bumblebee doing that behavior for a treat and then reproduce it and follow the same behavior on its own to get the same treat. So it can kind of learn to each other through generations like we do. And it's these kind of behaviors that we can't even think of that they might be able to display that I really look forward to being able to discover in the future.
Well, what do you think? Do creepy crawlies make their way to the top of our Battle of the Sciences leaderboard? Entomology, it's a brilliant fight. Matthew Sparks, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on here.
Thank you so much to Matthew for pleading his case on Battle of the Sciences this week, all about entomology. We can learn more about strange insects, actually, with Marina Ventura right now. She's our trusty explorer, and we're heading inside biology in this series, checking out some ants and how they work together.
Marina Ventura Inside Biology with the Society of Biology. Hold on tight.
Hiya! Today I'm checking out some of the cool ways insects work together. Let's have a closer look at this ant's nest. There are hundreds of ants swarming around their nest. They're not interested in us though, they just want those tasty-looking leaves. The amazing thing is they're following exactly the same path to the leaves and back. But they haven't got a map and ants can't talk to each other, so how are they doing it? If we get closer, we'll be able to see. Something smells pretty strong. Pooh! That's very whiffy. That smell is ant pheromone, a chemical the ants leave, and it acts as a marker to lead others to the right place. You'd need to be another ant to smell it, normally. I think I'll leave them to it. Let's check out the nest. Here, under the ground, we can see chambers and tunnels branching off in all sorts of directions. Here come some worker ants, back with their leaves. And over there, some workers are tending to their eggs, whilst others are looking after the queen, the biggest ant of them all. A weird fact is that all the workers are female. There aren't many boy ants in a colony. Let's get back out into the open air. Ant colonies work together so brilliantly and efficiently that sometimes they're called superorganisms. That means they're almost like one living thing. Or like a machine. Maybe we could learn something from the ants and work together instead of sometimes being selfish. What do you think, MapApp?
Well, possibly. You don't get selfish ants. Or if you do, they won't last in the colony very long.
The electronic essential for every explorer.
Human beings have learned that it makes sense to cooperate instead of fighting with each other all the time. It's unlikely we'll ever work quite as closely as the ants for a couple of good reasons. First of all, it's thought that the ants' behaviour is instinctive. They don't decide to work together. It's something that's as much a part of them as having 6 legs. Secondly, human beings are thought to be naturally selfish. Not like grabbing the biggest piece of cake, it's more about making sure that we eat when we're hungry and look for shelter if we're cold. We're pretty good at looking after ourselves, whereas ants and other social insects are hardwired to look after the whole colony.
But remember, it still makes good sense to share. That's all for now. In the meantime, find out more at funkidslive.com/biology.
Marina Ventura Inside Biology with the Society of Biology. Hold on tight.
That is it for this week's Fun Kids Science Weekly. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back exploring more of the amazing universe, same time, at same place next week. So make sure you find it on the free Fun Kids app and at funkidslive.com, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can send over a question if you'd like to star in the show. Do that on our app and at funkidslive.com. And we've got some tickets left if you'd like to come and see this podcast live on stage. We're going to Leeds, then Chelmsford. Again, it's all on the website. And Fun Kids, we are a children's radio station from the UK. You can listen all over the country on our app at funkidslive.com. And if you've got a smart speaker, wake it up and ask it to play Fun Kids.